All right. Hello, and thank you for joining me for another random acts of parenting session. I'm Sam Straub, owner of Teen Savvy Coaching, and I am here to talk about a reminder and a tool today. And they're related. And I'm saying this because I'm just coming off the heels of a vacation with my own teen, and I traveled with several other families who have teens had teens with them, and this came up. If you are a private coaching client of mine, you may have heard this, but this is a reminder worth saying, especially as we approach back to school time, when invariably there's nagging and cajoling that has to happen as you help your kids shift schedules back to the early wake ups towards the end of this month. So this reminder goes like this. Remember that your relationship with your kiddo is like a bank account, and you can make deposits and withdrawals. And when kids hit their teenage years, it becomes very easy to make withdrawals. You may not even think that you're making a withdrawal, and then they're just in a mood or something that hit them fine last week. You could say the exact same thing, and it becomes something that like they don't enjoy hearing from you today because their emotions are running high. So we humans hear positive things less heavily than negative things. Negative feedback weighs 3 to 5 times as much as positive feedback. And so, and I've like, for example, if someone had said to me, Sam, that's a very nice shirt you're wearing, that would feel good. I would like that. But if they said, Sam, that shirt doesn't look very good on you, that would hit me 3 to 5 times harder than the compliment felt good. Consequently, when we think about the ratio of positive interactions to corrective or negative interactions we need to have with our kids, we should be thinking at least 3 to 5 times as many positive interactions as interactions that feel to your teen like a withdrawal on the relationship. And when you're making those kinds of deposits, when you're giving praise or offering gratitude or pointing out a job well done, one of the things that I remind my parenting clients to do is to not throw a party when you're offering praise. Sometimes we want the praise to sink in for our kids so badly that we say it over and over again, or we're like extremely effusive about it. And teenagers, many of them, like they feel they have a hard time taking in compliments because they're so full of self-doubt on the regular. That's just a normal state of affairs for this age group. So when we offer a compliment and it feels like it slid off, sometimes our instinct is to double down on the compliment and like make sure it really went in, and kids will double down on their resistance to the compliment. So when you're offering a deposit, do it in a really matter-of-fact way and be as specific as possible about something you're grateful for, a positive trait or strength that you notice them exhibit, or a job well done. As an example, we were traveling this week. My son did not come with us. He had to stay home and work. And on the car ride home, which was a 12-hour drive yesterday, I sent him a text with about a dozen things I wanted him to pick up from the grocery store so that when we got home, our fridge wasn't totally bare. And he did that. And so when I opened the fridge and there were eggs and some vegetables and things that I could have for breakfast and lunch today, I just said, hey, thanks for taking time out of your day to make a grocery run. I know that's not usually your job, but I'm really grateful that I don't have to do that first thing tomorrow. That was a deposit in our relationship. And that's all I said. And he was like, yeah, no problem. And and I wanted him to feel good because he did something good, but that's all I said, and that was the end of that interaction. But it serves as a building block for moving forward because I'm conscious about making those kind of deposits with my kiddo because I certainly have withdrawals to make. Like there's so much corrective change behavior or so much corrective interaction that we are where we are requesting change from our kids when it comes to raising teens. Okay, so one caveat about making deposits: there are two traits that I recommend never making deposits about or avoiding. One is intelligence and one is looks. We want the deposits to be about effort or things over which the child has full control. We don't want to compliment on something that's a static trait, because then they may feel like, okay, well, I'm only good enough if I maintain this static trait, and they may, particularly if we comment on intelligence, may refrain from activities in which they struggle or they could struggle because they don't want the experience of feeling like they are not good enough or dumb, which isn't the case. Struggle is part of learning. But when we comment like, you're so smart, look at these grades you just got, you're so smart. Kids are like, well, in order to retain this smart label, I have to always do things where I'm going to come out on top. And we know that that's not how learning and growth happens. We want people to take risks, right? So avoid making deposits about traits over which kids don't have full control. Okay, now here's a tool for a way to make a deposit when you're having a conflict with your kid or when your kid has just screwed up. And sometimes like this is a way to turn the interaction from being at odds with one another to being on the same team with one another. And I call it labeling for good. So when your child has just screwed up, like done something where they're feeling bad about themselves, or they have done something where you are not pleased with their behavior, you can use this tool. So it sounds like this. Let's say your kid has just been rude to their sibling. You can say, hey, the way you were just behaving, that kind of remark probably hurt your sister's feelings. Now here's labeling for good. That's not how I see you as someone who hurts other people's feelings. And then you give a label that over which the kid has full control, and that's a positive trait. I see you as an assertive communicator who prefers to build people up. And then you say, so what was going on back there that made you act so out of character? And oftentimes that will get the kid to evaluate, to step back and to realize, oh, my parent does see the good in me, because we are mirrors for our children. Our interactions with them needs to reflect back an image that they drink in and walk away from feeling like they are capable, like they are lovable, and that the world is a safe place for them to take risks in. And we give them those tools through positive relationships and by giving them feedback around which they can build positive self-image. So labeling for good. Here's an example of when I use labeling for good in a classroom setting. As many of you know, I was a school counselor for many, many years. And I taught health and wellness and counseling-based curriculum. And sometimes those classes didn't meet regularly. So I had a student who had been told his class met, but he'd forgotten about it. And it like fell during a time he had planned to use for something different. Like it was a free period or a study hall, and he'd planned to do something with that. And we probably like needed to do homework for the next class. So he showed up and he was really ticked off that he had this class with me, and he acted that way. And he was like, do I have to be here? You know, it was disruptive. And it was atypical for kind of how the rest of the kids were acting or behaving. And there was like a culture of respect within the grade, within the group. So I went over to him and I said to him, do you know how your remarks are coming off right now? And I did this privately because I didn't want to shame him or create a power structure or power imbalance in front of the group, which is another something to avoid with teenagers. And he said, kind of rude. And I said, yeah, it really is. And it's also making it hard for me to like begin the class. And I want to tell you something. This is not how I see you. I've never had an interaction with you that has made me think of you as rude. Every interaction with you I've ever had has been positive, funny, pleasant. And so I'm not sure what's going on. And he looked at me, he's like, sorry, my bad. And he still wasn't pleased to be there, but he participated, and suddenly like we were on the same team because I acknowledged that he wasn't happy. And I gave him a positive label and I let him live up to it. I gave him the space to live up to it, and he did. So labeling for good, I think, is a terrific tool to use when you're in conflict, and it can take a situation where the relationship is at risk of being frayed and offer a deposit when really what like the kid is expecting, is daring you to do, is to make withdrawal after withdrawal. So those are my tools today. Remember about deposits and withdrawals, and use labeling for good in times of conflict. Before we jump off, does anyone on the live call have comments, questions? You can ask them out loud, or I will monitor the chat too. All right. Well, then thank you for joining me. We have one more Random Act of Parenting next week, and I look forward to talking to you then. And if you've got any questions in the interim, you can send me a DM on social media or email me at sam@teensavvycoaching.com. Thanks for joining me, everybody. Have an awesome day.